Well, I might as well go to this conversation and let's have a debate. But first, before we have that debate, let's talk about what's happening. So EA had its earnings call just recently, and Andrew Wilson talked about stuff. And of course, we're gonna focus on the Battlefield stuff. So I have this article from Games Radar Plus, but I took all the important bits from it. So I don't know, Ray, do you want to read those? You want to because
Yes.
you're usually the one that picks like I want to read it. I want to read it.
I want to read, yay!
So I picked the best parts from that article from Games Radar Plus about the earnings call, what Andrew Wilson said about the next Battlefield. So you can read this bit.
So, Battlefield might not be the Call of Duty rival that it once was following a string of divisive releases, but Wilson was eager to hype up the next entry in the large-scale, revolutionized series. I've just spent a whole bunch of time with the collective Battlefield team, says Wilson, funnily calling the next game another tremendous live service. Wilson still boasts that the largest Battlefield team in franchise history will build a Battlefield universe across connected multiplayer and single-player experiences. The Dead Space remake developers EA Motive were just put to work on Battlefield, leaving the cult horror series in limbo while the studio set up focus on single-player Battlefield experiences that were shut down. What was perhaps more controversial was Wilson's comments about implementing advertisements into traditional AAA gaming. Advertising has an opportunity to be a meaningful driver of growth for us, he continued. Yes, simply on the shareholder basis. We have teams internally in the company right now looking at how we vary thoughtful implementations inside of our game experiences. We're going to shove our advertising down your throats because we can't figure out where you actually watch. So, this is what they're saying, because you dolts don't just go out and buy their crap randomly. We're now going to put the advertisements right here on your here's your gaming screen from now on. It's just like, boo, buy our shit, and then it's gone. And, they got the rights to do that shit whether you got the game paused or not. Look at YouTube, baby. They all doing it. And it's not to actually sell shit. This is to make the shareholders go, ooh, you might sell shit.
Okay, I have so many thoughts about this, and this whole the last remaining hour, we're literally gonna be talking about this. Okay, I'm gonna say my piece.
Goddamn you, Valve! If you do this bullshit, I will burn this fucking world to the ground.
Here's my piece. So, it's okay. So first, I seen only one YouTuber.
I know we worked up about this.
Yeah. We talked about this multiple times and all the time, but let's finally talk about it properly. So, the only YouTuber I seen, or content creator, had a reasonable take about this was JetFrax. While everyone else, for obvious reasons, I understand why, of the word another tremendous live service. So, when you hear that out of context, yeah, it sounds like, oh yeah, like your two last games, live service games, Battlefield 5 and 2042, there was such successes, right? And so let's go for another go. Our context.
We didn't smash the concrete wall down with our bear skulls the last two times, but hey,
yeah.
Third time's the charm, right, boys?
Yeah, third the charm. So, our context, that sounds really, really bad, and I understand.
And really, really stupid.
Yeah, so, but, this was being addressed towards shareholders. This was not towards the player base, or the gamers, or whoever, your future customers. But, what they don't realize, especially Andrew Wilson, I presume, and his team, they do not realize that, hey, we do read these reports. Hey, we do care what you say. We might be shareholders, but at the end of the day, we're the ones paying for the for the product, right? So we're the ones deciding are we gonna pre-order or not pre-order, or whatever the case may be. So I don't think they realize that when they talk in these earning calls, right? They don't realize that us consumers actually do listen and care what you have to say at these earning calls, regardless how the game is doing. So that's the problem they have. They're gonna outtouch that people actually do care what you have to say. So when he says tremendous life service, this is fine for shareholders, because imagine shareholders just dumb idiots.
Ooh, there's long-term value.
Yeah.
There will continue to be growth.
Yeah.
Numbers go
Yeah,
brrr.
numbers go up. I make more money. Fuck yeah, I can maybe sell stock or something like that.
All the green, baby.
Yeah, so this is language for the shareholders because that's all they care about. They don't care about your video games. They don't care about your products. They don't care about art. As a shareholder, I just care how much money I can make from this, and that's the language.
I could pluck this little tidbit out right here and just be like, you can tell that the man doesn't really give a shit that much about the product because he doesn't really talk about the product. Every time in all of these calls and all this shit, it's never, oh, well, we've got this coming down the pipe and it's an awesome single player experience, great storytelling. We're really pushing the bar on visual fidelity and other experiences and everything else. Instead, it's like another live service game with the potential for added advertising experience and all this other shit. And it's like, you're talking about how you're going to sell the product. You're talking about what the product is going to do for monetization. You're not talking about what product is. And there is right there is the glaring thing about it. And that's why I don't believe half the shit that comes out of their mouth, because like Tom said, yes, it's all jargon and circle jerk for shareholders at the end of the day. It's not. Again, it's still the mentality that these idiots, because their bonuses are tied to it in a lot of cases, they feel that the biggest driver of everything is their share price and continually showing them that there is growth going on. Numbers go... The stock market never goes down, ever. It never happens. It should never happens. Never. There's never plateauing as far as growth goes. Never. That never happens.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just like... And of course, everyone and their mothers, every Battlefield, player that can read online, went ballistic. Like, oh, here we go again, you freaking morons! Don't know what you do and everything. And that's why I like Jack Farrick's approach, because he was the only one that mentioned, listen, this is for the shareholders. But he was thinking the same way I was thinking. But he has to Andrew Wilson has to realize, well, we do read the reports and everything. We care what you have to say. So maybe word it differently to make it less, outrageous. Like, if you had a successful live service games before, I don't think anyone would care. But because
this is the point that I would say is, and I would understand this if but the thing is these people have to have the balls in order to come out and say this type of shit.
Yeah.
To actually communicate with us, and they have to start they have to everybody needs to understand that shareholders are not gamers. They're not consumers. They don't buy the products. They buy investments in the company itself that makes the product. They don't buy the product for the most part. That's usually how it goes. I'm not saying always. I'm not generalizing. I'm a blanket statement. So put your damn pitchforks away. But for the most part, most people who are throwing hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars to a company in order to buy stock prices, they're not buying the games that company makes. They don't care. They're listening to what the company is saying. They're watching what the company is making. They're watching their growth. They're watching that shit. They're not looking at the products anymore at all, period. If that were the case, then Tesla would not have nearly as much fucking money and worth as what it actually does. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make that fucking passive dig, but they're garbage. That is a shareholder company. That is not a consumer company. Okay? Same thing with what EA is doing. Same thing with what the gaming industry in general is doing. They are becoming companies strictly for the shareholders. They don't care about their fucking product. As if they did, again, we wouldn't be doing this live service bullshit for the third time in a row, because a smart and sane individual in management would go, hey, this ain't working. We're really not making that much money off of it. Fucking Baldur's Gate just came out and kicked our asses. It was something we said would never make fucking money. Helldivers, a thing that concepts that have been pitched to these fucking, that have been pitched to these production companies. And I'm not even saying the developers, I'm talking the producers themselves, the people who make the green light decisions as to whether a project actually happens or not. It's these dumb motherfuckers who are going, the live service has potential for all of the long-time revenue and the long-time stuff. And I get it. You want to play the long game. And if you're going to do that, you got to make a good product, though. Helldivers, when it came out, do you think that game it was 100% monetization focused like AAA is? Probably not. They built up around it when it got popular, yes, but that's the way to go about it. You make a good product first.
When you mentioned being pitched to others, are you talking about when it was pitched for Halo? Because apparently they were pitching a game like Helldivers for Halo at Microsoft, and the suits rejected it.
Yeah, I'm talking about out of the box concepts that probably get pitched on a day in day out basis with a lot of these production companies like Blizzard and Activiz and Infinity Ward and EA and all of these things like that are good ideas that if they were executed properly and they had the proper funding, they had the proper development, would probably make amazing games. Things that like back in the day they used to take gambles on and actually do when they cared about their fucking product. Nowadays, it's if there's no if there's no chance for monetization or long-term revenue gains, then what do we care? It's not we sell a game for $60-$70 now and then some, $45-$50 worth of DLC down the line and call your bag good. You want that $70 buy-in plus $50 a month for the battle passes and the cosmetics and everything else that you're trying to just constantly shit out in order to make money. I get it. Companies need to make money. They need it in order to operate. I get it.
See, here's the thing. The problem is not that he says the next game will be a live service game. Okay, let's put the facts first that people have to understand. If it was obvious it's gonna be a live service game, no matter what, because it was proven that premium or season passes, whatever you want to call them, they don't work. That's the old age, the way gamers interact with video games these days.
It divides the community. It does.
Wait, we're gonna talk about that. Wait. Let me finish them. So, it's obvious the next game is gonna be live service games because there's other games out there that are successful with their live service games. But the reason why Battlefield sticks out like a fucking piece of shit from comparing to everything else, because their live service game is fucking garbage. That was the problem. Then look at Fortnite, PUBG, or Call of Duty. Call of Duty is probably the best example. So you look at these 3 games, and Apex Legends, here you go, 4 games. Another EA game that has a successful live service games. So these franchises have successful live service games, and when people bitch about those games, it's not because of the live service being bad. It's because of something specific that's happening in the video game, which is obvious. Something broke in the video game.
Keep nerfing the meta, man.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Which is a problem in of itself, but that's
a different topic entirely. But we have these successful games with amazing live service games. Call of Duty this year, pretty much doing amazing when it comes to multiplayer live service. Like, this year is amazing.
They're fucking slaying it.
Slamming. Then you look at Battlefield, of course. For the last 2 years, obviously it was in my eyes, not a complete failure, but it was not good. Of course, whether Battlefield 5 or 2042 was better, it's not a really high bar to go for, right? So technically, those 2 live service games, those 2 Battlefield games were not that successful in terms of live service. We get that. So, but because other games are doing it, and they're doing pretty well, of course the next game is going to be a live service game, and because it just makes sense, because the way people interact with video games these days, for example, Battlefield 1. We know the data. Battlefield 1 had 1.6 of the player base owned premium. And Battlefield 1 sold really well. It was highly praised, sold really well, and only 1.6...
It was very...
And only 1.6% of the player base owned premium. So I can understand looking at again, spreadsheets. Like,
as a marketing director, you'd look at that and go, "There's no point in it anymore."
Yeah, so might as well have this debate. So, premium versus live service.